Okay, so I have never taken the electric vehicle on mountain roads before, so this should be interesting. Back to the valley there. It's kind of nice because even though we didn't have a ton of rain this season, we did the last 2 years, and the temps haven't gotten particularly hot, so the vegetation hasn't really like dried out. I mean, it's not moist, but I've seen it way drier than this. This is not bad. There's actually still flowers on these little blooms along the road. So that's a good sign. Ooh, hang on to your hats for this curve. Coming out of that and then into the right bank. So there's actually a trail to the west of this that winds up at about the same place that the road winds up, and I have hiked that, and it is a beast of a trail, especially in the last 100 yards or so to the peak. Kind of nuts. Oh, here goes a bicyclist. These guys, they pump all the way to the top of this thing, and then they come racing down. This is the time to go driving because at night people actually do use this to race, and while my car is pretty well equipped for handling these curves, it is not a racer, not by design anyway. So I would not want to run into those guys up here. In fact, when I first got onto the road, I turned out to avoid a racer because he was already on my butt. So I was like, I'm gonna let you go. Or those souped up Honda Civics. Alright, so off in the distance there, I'm gonna slow down for a minute. That is Mount Baldy. And so this road actually splits, where you can take one path basically toward Mount Baldy, and the other path goes down into San Gabriel Canyon. The route into San Gabriel Canyon is closed right now for some reason, probably a landslide issue. By the way, I don't know if you can tell, but that is a long drop to my right. So I don't know if it's a landslide issue or what, but we can't go that way today. So I'm going up to the Ridge Road. And the Ridge Road is kind of cool because it is basically a 1.5 lane road that goes right along the ridge line. And there are some excellent views up there. So, speaking of ridge lines, so right now it is a drop to my right and a drop to my left. basically up here to my left, that drop, that is Azusa Canyon. And so there's the reservoirs and the San Gabriel River down there. So, but everybody goes down there. It's like, especially this weekend, I can almost guarantee you everyone's down there. They're at the East Fork, they're drinking, they're doing whatever, messing around. And that road is much busier than this one. So, figured I'd get some solitude up on the ridgeline. Train driver, close course, do not try this at home. By the way, this is where one pedal driving really shines, because no braking. You just kind of accelerate and then decelerate and then accelerate and then decelerate. So off the pedal, on the pedal. So much better than driving two pedal. I'm stopping for a minute to take in the view. So I don't know what's going on, but there's a helicopter over there flying up further into the mountains. And then this is the view back. So that's where I've been. So basically, this is the layout. So that down there, that is the Azusa Canyon. And you can see Azusa Canyon Road down there. And the reservoirs. And then over there is the lower Glendora Ridgeline. So there's actually a trail that you can take from there. It goes up along that ridge, and you can take it all the way. Now here's what's interesting. So you see this right here? It's not on the map, but that is actually an old ridge trail that goes down. I read the history on that actually. So it's not as maintained as it used to be, but that trail, back in the day, there was a gentleman who had a cabin along the river before they dammed it up. So that was just free-flowing river in a canyon, obviously. It's still a canyon, but now it's also a reservoir. So there was a guy that lived down there, and to get to Glendora, he would literally just hike up, get to there, and then there was a trail at that junction up there that hiked down that is even less defined now. So that's a little something about this area that you may not have known. Well, apparently that's as good as it's going to get. Road closed. It's not a hard closure. I'm willing to bet I could drive around that sign and keep going. But I'll probably run into a lock gate within a mile. So right here, we're right around 3,600 feet. This over here, this is the Lower Monroe Truck Trail, which does not actually allow trucks unless there's like a fire. But you can hike that from the bottom of the hill where I started up to here. That's not the trail I was talking about earlier, but it's another way to get up here. Then this over here, this is the Upper Monroe Truck Trail. And the Upper Monroe Truck Trail is interesting in that you can hike it 99% of the way to the East Fork, but not 100% of the way to the East Fork. And the reason for that is because when you get to the bottom, it goes through a fire camp. But it's not just any fire camp, it is an inmate fire camp. And the state of California effectively treats it as basically like you're on a prison ground. You cannot enter it without authorization. So, but it doesn't happen too often. But in the event that these hills are on fire, this gate gets opened up and they can use these roads to get to and from parts of the backcountry. Now, give you a little education here. So, as you can see, there's an immediate drop off of a couple thousand feet. So just up here on the left, that is the Glendora Mountain Road going down to the East Fork. So somewhere in this gap over here, you can't see it from up here, but it's there, I promise, is the actual East Fork of the San Gabriel River going up into the hill. And so you go up there, you wind up at the bridge to nowhere. And now this is a little bit of education for you. So this is where the Baldy Ridge starts. So this mountain here, this peak, that is Iron Mountain. Elevation is about 8,500 feet up there at the very top. And then the ridgeline continues from there. So you can't see the full extent of it, but if I can just get a little, so you can kind of see it right there. There's a sudden drop off. So you can hike most of the Baldy Ridge, but there's one climb. It is right about there. That's Gunsight Notch, and it's about a 20-foot drop, so you kind of have to know how to rock rappel. But then if you continue on, so that higher line up there, and then there's a little peak, basically West Baldy, and then there's Mount Baldy itself. So you can hike from the East Fork up trail to Iron Mountain, and then if you can figure out a way to get over Gunsight Notch there, you can hike from there a really easy ridge hike all the way to the top of Mount Baldy, which has no snow on it right now. Maybe the tippy top, but not that I can see. But you can see up there at Mount Baldy, if you can look real close, there's actually a cut there. That's where one of the trails is that takes you to the peak. Pretty cool, huh? I'm gonna walk a little. I gotta walk past the road close sign. It said no cars or bikes down to the bottom. I thought that the Ridge Road was going to be open. Maybe it is, but that sign seems to indicate that it's not. However, the sign down at the bottom that said Glendora Mountain Road closed, it said no bikes, and it said no cars, but it didn't say that I couldn't walk on the road. So I'm going to take a peek and see what I can see, because there's a junction up here where the road splits, so I want to see if I can see that split. Okay, so the gates are shut, which is why they had that road closure sign posted. A little weird that they would have the gate shut here. I think there's a separate gate on the other side, but for whatever reason, they do not want people up in the backcountry right now. I did just see a bicyclist come the other way. So this is the actual split. So going to the left, that's Glendora Mountain Road down to the East Fork. And to the right is Glendora Ridge Road, which takes you to Mount Baldy. So side trail. This area looks like it hasn't been visited much lately. Here's the abandoned electric utility box. There's a bunch of these random things, even up on trails up here. So, and then that's the look back. So that down there is actually San Dimas Canyon, and the Glendora San Dimas Experimental Forest. So you're not supposed to go down there. I like to joke that that's where the zombie apocalypse is being developed. And then there's just the view out toward the Inland Empire. And then back toward Mount Baldy and down toward the East Fork. Okay, so this is the Upper Monroe Truck Trail. And I'm going to try to get over, let's see, let me get around here. I want to see if I can get up to that little peak right there and get the view. This part here is where you can really tell that at one point they graded this with the idea that it was going to be maybe even a little bit more of a major road up here. Speaking of major roads, so that's the ridge road over there, cutting up there, so you can see the road cut. So it goes along the ridge line, and then it cuts that way up toward Mount Baldy. It actually winds up at Baldy Village. So not at all what I originally intended today, but this is the high point on the Monroe Truck Trail. I wanted to climb that thing, but there's no good path up. It's too much brush. I know it doesn't look thick, but it's thick. And if you look down there, I'm going to zoom way in. That is the East Fork right there. That's the Shoemaker Canyon Road, which goes up to the tunnels to nowhere. And then down there, you can't really see it, but the East Fork of the river is down there. And then down below the Shoemaker Road is the East Fork Road that was originally supposed to go all through these canyons, wind that way, wind back to the left, and get up to there to meet Angeles Crest Highway somewhere. I'll zoom it out. There's your panorama view. Surrounded by mountains. And then out that way, back to the San Gabriel Valley. Okay, I want to know what that weird lone tree is. I have no idea what that is. It's weird, it's just grown up there by itself. It has nobodies around it. Oh look, an airplane.